In the shadowy depths of Ninjago's ancient past, five figures rose from legend and infamy. They are the Forbidden Five, a band of corrupted elemental masters from the mysterious realm of the wildness. Once mere mortals hailing from disparate tribes, these five outcasts united under a dark pact to become something far more sinister. Their tale is one of power and betrayal, steeped in forbidden magic and the wild lore of the wildness. As twilight falls, their silhouettes emerge. Nokt, Rox, Zarkt, Drix, and Kerr, names spoken in whispers. Even now, together, they founded the dreaded Wolf Clan and nearly wiped out their home realm in a quest for ultimate power. Tonight, we delve into their backstories, uncover their motivations, and retrace their journey from tragic origins to catastrophic legacy. The realm of the wildness, a once untamed world of mystical tribes and anthropomorphic beings, shaped the Forbidden Five's origins. Each member began as an elemental master, gifted with a unique elemental power seldom seen in Ninjago. But in their yearning for greater strength and recognition, each strayed from the light. Through a binding brotherhood and the discovery of a forbidden dark energy called Thoraxian magic, they transcended their mortal limits. The five channeled this power to create Shatterspin, a twisted, more destructive form of spinjitzu. Under the glow of a blood moon and the howl of unseen wolves, they swore loyalty to each other and to darkness. Now we unravel the shadows surrounding each of the Forbidden Five, one by one, to understand how heroes in training became the scourge of all realms. Nokt, the eldest of the five, looms as the leader of the pack. Once an elemental master of brute force, Nokt's strength was legendary, but so was his bitterness. As a corrupted, anthropomorphic wolf with midnight blue skin and a scar etched across one azure eye, Nokt carries the scars of neglect and defiance. In his youth, he and his sister Rox were orphans raised by a distant wolf tribe in the wildness. Alone and broken, Nokt felt his potential was overlooked by those who should have guided him. Resentment took root, and he fled the tribe with Rox, vowing that no one would ever ignore his strength again. Nokt's hunger for power led him to an ancient forbidden shrine deep in the wild forests. There, he first encountered the dark presence of Thunderfang, a primordial chaos dragon whose dark dragon energy whispered promises of limitless strength. Nokt made a fateful choice. He bonded with Thunderfang's energy, amplifying his brute strength 100-fold. The transformation was both physical and spiritual, with crackling dark lightning coursing through his veins and newfound command over countless elemental abilities. Nokt felt invincible. He rallied four other outcasts under his leadership, forming the Forbidden Five with himself as co-leader. In doing so, he founded the Wolf Clan, a vicious army of warriors donned in enchanted wolf masks and bound by Nokt's will. As war ignited across the wildness, Nokt led with ferocity and cunning. He personally commanded the Wolf Clan's raids, smashing through rival tribes' defenses with overwhelming force. With every victory, his confidence swelled, and so did his cruelty. Nokt began to see himself as destined to rule all realms. Under his command, the Forbidden Five pushed the wildness to the brink of annihilation, conquering anyone who would not submit. It was Nokt who proclaimed their next ambition. Why stop at one realm? In his eyes, all of creation should either bow to the Forbidden Five or be ground beneath his heel. Yet, in his hubris, Nokt underestimated the forces that would oppose them. When the Dragon Masters Egalt and Rontu finally confronted the Five, it was Nokt who stepped forward to face them. The battle was cataclysmic. Nokt's brute force and Shatterspin against the righteous fury of the Dragon Masters. For all his strength, Nokt met an immovable obstacle. Through the power of Rising Dragon, a brilliant counter to his Shatterspin, and an ancient spell cast by the sorceress Gandalaria, Nokt and his brethren were defeated and banished into the shadowy prison of Netherspace. In that final moment before imprisonment, Nokt's roar shook the heavens in fury. He had tasted ultimate power and dominion, only to have it ripped away. And so, encased in eternal dark, Nokt waited and plotted. Even in exile, Nokt's leadership never wavered. Centuries passed, but his will to return only sharpened. All he needed was a chance, a crack in the prison walls. That chance would come from a new ally and eventual pawn, Lord Ras of Imperium. But before we reach the Forbidden Five's resurrection, let us meet the others who stood at Nokt's side in his first reign of terror. At Nokt's side was Rox, his sister in blood and ambition. Rox served as the second leader of the Forbidden Five, the mistress of fear, whose cunning was matched only by her ruthlessness. A corrupted, anthropomorphic wolf like her brother, Rox had orange-yellow skin etched with fiery persimmon markings and glowing red-orange eyes that could stare straight into a person's deepest nightmares. Once the elemental master of fear, she could sense and manipulate the terror in others' hearts, a power she honed to perfection. Rox was smaller in stature than Noct, but no less dangerous. Behind the fierce snarl of her white wolf mask was a brilliant and calculating mind. As children, Rox and Noct only had each other. While Noct seethed at being undervalued, Rox learned to disappear, observing quietly from the fringes of the wolf pack that raised them. In that solitude, she embraced the whispers of fear around her, learning how it could control beasts and people alike. It was Rox who first discovered the ancient tome of Thoraxian magic hidden in the wildness, spells in a secret language that could bend souls and minds. With this knowledge, Rox became the architect of the Forbidden Five's dark abilities. She crafted the infamous wolf masks for their legion, infusing each mask with Thunderfang's dark energy to create berserker wolf warriors bound to their cause. Many say it was Rox's idea to adopt the wolf identity, turning their tragic upbringing into a symbol of fear. Beneath the mask of a careful strategist, however, lurked a feral bloodlust. Rox relished the chaos they wrought and the fear they instilled across the realms. On the battlefield, Rox was both sorceress and enforcer. Merciless and cold, she would stride through the aftermath of a massacre, eyes alight with cruel glee at the terror of her victims. Where Noct smashed walls, Rox shattered hope, breaking the spirit of anyone who opposed the Five. In one notorious incident, she ordered an attack on a caravan of refugees fleeing the wildness. At her signal, Zarkt used his powers to curse the convoy's path, and the lead transport's axle snapped, seemingly by misfortune, to block their escape. Drix then unleashed a plague of stinging insects, and Kerr advanced to decay everything, even the very metal of the vehicle. As the panicked travelers braced for death, Rox raised a hand. "Let them live. Let them warn the others that the Forbidden Five have returned, and no one is safe," she declared, voice echoing with icy contempt. This calculated cruelty, sparing a few only to spread fear, was Rox's trademark. Fear itself was her weapon. For all her savagery outwardly, Rox fiercely protected her own. She stood shoulder to shoulder with Noct in every battle, and treated Zarkt, Drix, and Kerr as true brethren. When the Five were eventually banished to the nether space, Rox's spirit refused to languish quietly. Her cunning would soon engineer their escape. Indeed, upon their attempted revival ages later, it was Rox who outsmarted death itself. As a portal out of nether space closed, she tore her soul from her body and cast it across realms to survive. Ever the strategist, Rox possessed the young Imperial girl Jordana in the merged world, using the girl as a secret host to operate freely. She endured months in hiding, gathering intel and plotting with Noct, a testament to her patience and intellect. When her physical body was finally freed, Rox rejoined the fight without missing a beat. "Rox, good to see you, sister. The real you," Noct greeted her warmly as her soul reunited with her restored body. The siblings' bond, forged in hardship and blood, was as strong as ever. Rox's arc is one of relentless ambition and loyalty, not to any noble cause, but to her brother and the dark promise they shared. Ultimately, her intelligence was matched only by her arrogance. Like Noct, Rox's overconfidence in the final hour would contribute to their downfall. But before that final fate, the Forbidden Five's story would continue with the other members, each bringing their own brand of chaos. Cloaked in mystery and malevolence, Zarkt was the Forbidden Five's agent of chaos, the harbinger of misfortune. Zarkt, a corrupted anthropomorphic animal of indeterminate species, possessed the elemental power of misfortune, allowing him to turn luck itself into a weapon. In his presence, probabilities bent to doom, arrows veered off course, structures collapsed at the worst moments, and even the bravest foes found their plans unraveling by ill luck. Zarkt's appearance befitted his power. His body was lithe and hunched, with patterns on his skin reminiscent of cracked glass. Some say his face bore the qualities of a jackal or a hyena, with an ominous, permanent grin, while others swear his eyes were like a snake's, cold and unblinking. Whatever his true visage, Zarkt thrived in the shadows, sowing discord with a wicked laugh echoing through the forests of the wildness. In his early life, Zarkt was an outcast shaman from a superstition-steeped tribe. Branded as a cursed child after a series of freak accidents befell his village, he was blamed for every misfortune that occurred. Loneliness and resentment festered in Zarkt's heart as he wandered the wild realms. When Noct and Rox found him, Zarkt was desperate to prove the world right. If they wanted a cursed being, he would become the embodiment of bad luck. Under Thunderfang's dark influence, Zarkt's power of misfortune grew terrifyingly strong. No longer accidental or subconscious, his jinxes became deliberate acts of destruction. He could curse an entire battalion with a mere gesture, making weapons backfire and solid ground crumble. He often fought from the flanks, unseen, letting enemies fall victim to accidents and panic before the Wolf Clan ever engaged. It was Zarkt's tactical use of chaos that often softened up targets for Nokt's frontal assaults. During the Wildness campaign, Zark's reputation grew to almost supernatural status. Survivors spoke of an invisible demon that turned their luck upside down. In one siege, as the allied tribes of the Wildness mounted a defense, Zarkt infiltrated their ranks under cover of night. By dawn, the tribe's arrows refused to fly straight, and their fort's gate hinges mysteriously gave out. The stronghold fell without the five ever needing to storm the walls. Misfortune had already opened the gates. Zarkt delighted in this psychological warfare. He had a flair for dramatic irony and cruelty, triggering a bridge to collapse just as reinforcements arrived, or causing an enemy's weapon to jam at a critical moment. There was a playfulness to his evil. He treated the war like a twisted game of chance he could always rig in his favor. Among the Forbidden Five, Zarkt was the sly provocateur. He would often taunt Drix and Kerr with sarcastic barbs and even poke fun at Nokt's seriousness, behind the leader's back, of course. Yet his loyalty never wavered. He knew that united with the others, his misfortune powers were far more effective. Zark's own motivation was simple. Having been victimized and called a curse all his life, he embraced that identity fully. By helping conquer the wildness and beyond, he proved to himself that misfortune was stronger than luck or hope. Still, fate had a final trick in store for Zarkt. When Egalt and Rontu struck the Forbidden Five down, not even Zarkt's power could avert the outcome. The harder he tried to twist fate, the more decisively the Dragon Master's spell sealed his. Imprisoned in nether space, Zarkt seethed, his ironic laughter finally silenced. But like his comrades, his story was not yet over. The threads of fate would weave their return. Next, we turn to Drix, the Lord of the Swarm. Drix was a corrupted anthropomorphic insectoid, once the elemental master of Swarm, and perhaps the most visibly monstrous of the five. His body was encased in a carapace-like armor, segmented and chitinous. Faceted eyes glinted under the shadow of his wide straw hat, and when he spoke, his voice had a subtle buzzing undertone. Drix's power allowed him to command legions of creatures, from stinging wasps to slithering serpents, and even mechanical beetle drones. If it moved in numbers, Drix could bend it to his will. There were whispers that Drix's very form was not singular at all, but a colony of insects given human shape, an eerie rumor perhaps born from the way swarms would sometimes pour out from his sleeves during battle. Drix's past is a tragic tale of isolation and obsession. Hailing from a small village on the fringes of the wildness, he was shunned for his unsettling affinity with creepy crawlies. As a boy, Drix found friendship only among the insects in the fields. When famine struck his village, Drix tried to help by commanding locusts away, but lost control, inadvertently unleashing them on the village's own crops. Branded a monster, he fled into the wilderness, surrounded only by the constant buzz of the swarm that followed him. Nokt and Rox sought Drix out specifically. They had heard whispers of a bug prince in the wild. They offered him camaraderie and a chance to turn his curse into strength. Through Thunderfang's dark blessing, Drix's control over creatures became absolute. Under his command, the Wolf Clan's forces were bolstered by swarms of living weapons. Drix could blanket the sky in locusts to blot out the sun, or summon an army of spiders to overrun an enemy fort. In battle, he often fought alongside his horde, his laughter merging with the drone of thousands of wings, a sound that struck fear into even the bravest soldiers. Despite his horrific powers, Drix was perhaps the least respected among the Forbidden Five. Nokt, ever prideful, saw Drix's reliance on vermin as lesser skill, and often mocked him. Kerr, sharing Nokt's sentiment, would snicker alongside. This treatment planted a seed of resentment in Drix's heart. He had joined the Five to belong somewhere, yet even among peers he struggled for validation. This drove Drix to ever more extreme displays of loyalty and brutality. As if to prove his worth, he unleashed his swarms mercilessly, at times even shocking his teammates with his ferocity. In one incident, Drix captured an entire squadron of enemy warriors alive by cocooning them in spider silk, presenting them to Nokt like trophies. Another time, during their second rise in modern Ninjago, Drix personally captured Lord Raz after a confrontation, dragging the defeated warlord as a gift to Nokt. But his efforts won little praise. Nokt simply shoved Drix's offering aside, dismissing both Ras and Drix in one brusque gesture. This slight epitomized Drix's tragedy, forever seeking approval from those who saw him as a tool. Yet Drix's loyalty never wavered. He remained steadfast through the banishment and eventual escape. When sealed in nether space, it was Drix, along with Zarkt and Kerr, who reached out psychically to Nokt and Rox in the outside world, coordinating their own rescue from within the void. Drix's ingenuity and willpower contributed to the plan that would free them all. In the end, though he fell alongside his comrades, Drix's determination to belong, to be part of something greater, defined his arc. The Lord of the Swarm proved that even the most reviled outcast could shape history, albeit in the form of nightmares and plagues. Last of the five is Kerr, the grim master of decay. If Drix was the most outwardly monstrous, Kerr was the most dreaded. As the elemental master of decay, Kerr wielded the power of rot and ruin, the ability to wither living beings, corrode steel, and age stone to dust with a mere touch. Kerr's very presence was corrosive. Plants blackened in his footsteps, and the air around him crackled with an aura of entropy. He wore ragged hooded robes stained with dark ichor, and beneath his wide straw hat, matching Rox's style, one could glimpse his face, a gaunt, skull-like visage with patches of decayed flesh, as if he were half living and half corpse. In truth, Kerr's body bore the price of his power. Every time he invoked decay, it took a small toll on his own life force, leaving him in a perpetually withered state. Despite this, Kerr was frighteningly strong in his element. The closer to death he appeared, the more potent his decay magic grew. Once, long ago, Kerr was a healer in a peaceful wildness tribe. Ironically, his elemental gift began as one of life and growth, the opposite of decay. But when a rampant sickness struck his people, Kerr's powers failed to save those he loved. In despair, he resorted to dark experiments and ancient spells to reverse death. The experiment backfired, cursing Kerr with the power of decay instead. He watched in horror as his healing touch turned lethal, causing even a simple flower in his hand to wilt and die. Heartbroken and feared, Kerr abandoned his village, wandering to places where only the dead kept him company. Nokt and Rox found him meditating in a graveyard of the wildness, surrounded by the undying remnants of his failures. They offered Kerr a new purpose. If the world only brought pain, why not remake it through destruction? Kerr, with nothing left to lose, agreed. Infused with Thunderfang's dark energy, his curse of decay became an unstoppable force. He could now project waves of corrosive energy, melting enemy armor and sapping the strength of any foes who drew near. It's said that in battle, Kerr once grabbed an opponent's blade barehanded, and the steel rusted away to flakes. Silent and imposing, Kerr was the enforcer of death within the Forbidden Five. In the initial conquest of the wildness, he orchestrated scorched earth tactics. Crops turned to slime, wells poisoned, forests reduced to lifeless husks. This ensured that even if the five moved on, those lands could not rise against them again. Among the five, Kerr spoke the least. He was a figure of few words and decisive actions. His comrades respected his chilling efficiency, and even Zarkt learned not to make jests at Kerr's expense, for the master of decay had little sense of humor. One of Kerr's rare displays of emotion came after their banishment, during the long centuries in nether space. There, Kerr's decayed body was in stasis, neither alive nor dead. He later confided to Rox, in the privacy of Psychic Link, that enduring eternal half-life was a torment worse than any defeat. That longing for a true life, or a true death, drove Kerr when freedom beckoned. In the modern era, once Nokt and Rox freed Kerr from nether space, he re-emerged more dangerous than ever. When the reunited Forbidden Five made their presence known, Kerr did not hesitate to demonstrate his power. As mentioned, he nearly killed a pair of motorists in the new merged realm by decaying their truck and bodies, until Rox ordered him to stand down and let them spread fear instead. Kerr obeyed with a curt nod. He was disciplined in following the chain of command. But the incident showed that Kerr's instincts always tilted toward total annihilation. Ultimately, Kerr's story is a tragic inversion, a healer turned harbinger of decay. His personal arc, like the others, ended in bitterness. The cure he sought for the world only brought more suffering. And yet, for a brief time, Kerr and his brethren nearly succeeded in bringing the world to its knees. Not once, but twice. Rise, fall, and legacy of the Forbidden Five. Banished to the dark limbo of nether space, the Forbidden Five became nothing more than evil whispers in old wildness legends, until the chaotic events of the Merge of Realms set the stage for their return. In the current era of Ninjago's merged realms, an opportunistic warlord named Lord Raz sought to harness the Five's power for his own ends. Performing the ritual of the Blood Moon with forbidden sorcery, Raz attempted to break the Dragon Master's ancient spell. The ritual demanded exchanges. In a grim twist, Ross tried to sacrifice 5 sacred riders of destiny from the Cloud Kingdom in place of the 5. The ritual only partially succeeded. Noct was released back into the world, erupting from the portal in a flash of crimson lightning. Rox's soul also slipped free at the last instant, finding refuge in young Jordana, as we saw. Zarkt, Drix, and Kerr remained trapped, their liberation incomplete. For now, finding himself in a strange new era, Noct begrudgingly allied with Lord Ross at first. But the proud wolf warrior seethed at owing his freedom to another, and at Ross's failure to free the rest of his brethren. Ross, wary of Noct's power, clamped a technological control collar around Noct's neck, temporarily forcing his obedience. It was a humiliation Noct would never forgive. Meanwhile, Rox, as Jordana, covertly made contact with Noct, revealing her presence and hatching a plan to free Zarkt, Drix, and Kerr. The sibling duo worked in secret under Ross's nose, preparing for the day they could break their comrades out and exact revenge on all who had wronged them. That day arrived with the Grand Tournament of the Sources, a contest of elemental champions orchestrated by Ross to gather elemental powers. Noct entered the tournament as Ross's champion, but with his own agenda: to claim the prize, the elemental powers of all competitors, for himself. At the same time, he and Rox executed the other half of their plan. They hunted down 3 mighty arc dragons, slaying the ancient creatures in secret and collecting their magical crowns of horns, dragon ivory, as key ingredients for a liberation spell. In a climactic turn, Noct won the Tournament of the Sources, aided by covert sabotage from an ally named Blecht, and seized the elemental powers contained in the elemental cup. With the cup's bounty of powers and the dragon ivory horns, Noct and Rox rushed to the Monastery of Gates in the fabled City of Temples, a site where realities intersect. There, under the blood moon's lingering shadow, they performed a dark rite. As the stolen elements swirled around the dragon horns, a portal to Netherspace was torn open, and out tumbled Zarkt, Drix, and Kerr, along with Rox's original body. "Come to me, my brethren. You are finally free," Noct cried triumphantly, as his long-lost comrades lay sprawled on the monastery floor. The Forbidden Five were reborn, though the process left Zarkt, Drix, and Kerr weak and drained at first. Rox's soul swiftly departed Jordana and reunited with her own body, prompting Noct's warm greeting. "Rox, good to see you, sister. The real you." With all 5 back together, the Wolf Clan's resurgence was at hand. Lord Raz arrived, enraged at their treachery, but he was now vastly outnumbered. In the ensuing confrontation, Rox unleashed her Thoraxian magic to corrupt Raz's assembled wolf warriors, turning them against their former master and unlocking their full potential under her control. Noct, empowered by dozens of stolen elemental powers, engaged Raz and the ninja in a spectacular duel to cover his recovering allies. It was chaos at the Monastery of Gates, elemental blasts, swarming mechanical robots, and the 5 fighting with a fury born of 2 millennia of imprisonment. Ultimately, Raz's forces were overwhelmed, but the ninja, including newcomers Aaron and Sora, proved formidable. In a decisive moment, the young ninja Sora used her technology powers to disable Noct's control collar and strip away the stolen elements, weakening him. Realizing the tide could turn, Rox signaled a retreat. The Forbidden Five grabbed the one prize they could, Lord Raz himself, taken as a grudging hostage, and plunged through an open gateway. They destroyed the portal behind them, disappearing into the unknown so that none could follow. In exile once more, the Forbidden Five licked their wounds and plotted their next move. They found themselves in an uncharted fragment of the merged realms, a dark haven where they could recover. It was here, in the shadow of realms, that Thunderfang called out to them again. The ancient evil they once served offered a deal. If the 5 would help free the Shatter Dragon, a being of immeasurable destruction, Thunderfang would grant them the ultimate power they craved. Desperate to regain their lost strength and enact revenge on Ninjago, the 5 agreed. They set out to collect the prismatic blades, mystical keys needed to unlock the Shatter Dragon's bonds. For a time, the 5 worked with the fanatic Dragonian warriors under Thunderfang's direction, crossing the merged lands in secret, hunting these artifacts. Each mission tested their cohesion and resolve. Though still fearsome, the 5 were increasingly wary. For all their bravado, defeat had humbled them slightly, and betrayal was fresh in their minds. In the end, betrayal indeed sealed the Forbidden Five's fate, but not by any ninja or external hero. It came from Thunderfang itself. The moment the prismatic blades served their purpose, Thunderfang turned on its pawns. In a final confrontation at the Shatter Dragon's resting site, Thunderfang drained the very souls of Noct, Rox, Zarkt, Drix, and Kerr, siphoning their life force to empower the awakening dragon. The Forbidden Five had survived banishment, imprisonment, and eons of time, but this treachery was one adversary they could not overcome. As Thunderfang's jaws closed around their essence, the five let out one last furious cry, a mix of rage, sorrow, and ironic realization that they, the great betrayers, had been betrayed in turn. When the dust settled, Thunderfang itself was destroyed, thanks to the ninja, and perhaps a twist of destiny. And with its dying breath, the beast exhaled the five souls into the ether. Thus ended the Forbidden Five, or so it seems. The saga of the Forbidden Five is a cautionary tale etched into Ninjago's history and present. Though Nokt, Rox, Zarkt, Drix, and Kerr have fallen, their dark legacy endures in whispers and remnants. In the merged realms of today, the wildness is free from their tyranny, but the scars of their nearly fatal rule remain. The once lush realm still heals from the near annihilation wrought millennia ago. The Wolf Clan's masks and weapons, sealed away long ago, have resurfaced in black markets and hidden vaults, a tempting cache of dark power for any would-be warlord. The forbidden art of Shatterspin did not die with them either. Knowledge of this lethal spinjitzu variant leaked into scrolls and tomes. Who knows if a foolish fighter might someday try to replicate it? More immediately, the Five's actions have altered the course of current events. Their brief resurgence shook the balance of power in the New World. It was their rampage that unmasked Lord Rasa's deceptions, inadvertently aiding the ninja in uniting the realms against Imperium's schemes. By dragging Ras through that portal, they set the stage for his eventual downfall and revealed the deeper threat of Thunderfang lurking behind the merge. In a way, the Forbidden Five's chaos forced heroes and villains alike to confront truths that would have remained hidden. The riders of destiny they nearly sacrificed were saved, and returned to their holy work of maintaining the tapestry of fate, likely writing caution into the destinies of those who follow. And those three slain Arc Dragons? Their loss rallied the remaining dragons and allies to the ninja's side, strengthening resolve to protect the merged lands from any similar evil. The Forbidden Five serve as a stark reminder of what becomes of unchecked ambition and corrupted hearts. From tragic origins, they chose a path that ultimately consumed them, and nearly consumed the world. Yet in their downfall lies a grim lesson that resonates in current Ninjago events. As new villains emerge and ancient powers stir in this era of merged realms, one can't help but recall Nokt's snarling defiance, Rox's calculated malice, Zarkt's cruel laughter, Drix's relentless swarms, and Kerr's creeping death. The ninja know well now that even long-banished evils can return stronger than before, and that unity and trust are the ultimate keys to victory. The very bonds the Forbidden Five twisted for evil. In the end, the Forbidden Five are gone, but not forgotten. Their souls, once absorbed by Thunderfang, have since moved on from the mortal realm, perhaps finally finding the rest that eluded them in life. But their legacy persists in the Chronicles of Ninjago, a dark chapter that forever links the ancient realm of the wildness to the modern world. As the moon shines over Ninjago, one might imagine the faint echo of a wolf's howl, a chilling echo of Nokt and Rox's old war cry, reminding us that legends never truly die. The tale of the Forbidden Five will continue to intrigue and haunt, a story to warn future generations of ninja what true darkness looks like, and how even the mightiest can fall when consumed by it. Their legend, forged in darkness, now serves the light, as a lesson of history that the new Ninjago will not soon forget.